Matt Holmes is a British pro cyclist. He's won a stage at the Tour Down Under, ridden Grand Tours, and even won the KOM jersey at Paris-Nice, no less. But Matt is no longer in the World Tour. He is now racing and doing things slightly differently, and he is thriving. And I wanted to catch up with him to find out what's going on and also learn whether the World Tour is really all it's cracked up to be.
I was being asked to ride races I would have killed to start when I was at Madison. And I was like, absolutely not. That's the worst thing I could possibly think of doing right now. I was out of my depth, really. I felt like I was out of my depth. The first half of 2022, I raced more than anyone else on the planet. I went to my first race and actually won a stage of the Tour Down Under. Threw it straight at Mads Pedersen while he was world champion, straight in his ribs.
So Matt, I'm really interested to talk to you about what your experience was like in the World Tour. But before we get there, let's kind of go back a bit to before you landed a pro contract. What was it like kind of building up to that moment? You were mostly racing in the UK. What was that scene like as a kind of aspiring pro cyclist?
Looking back, it was amazing, to be honest. I mean, you were there. We sort of grew up racing together as juniors and then sort of pro on the road in the UK. So yeah, looking back, there were so many really good riders that were almost World Tour. The whole UK scene was so competitive and we had such good fun. Felt like a lad's holiday most weekends, just going to races. So yeah, I felt at the time I was really frustrated that I was like stuck in a rut. I did really well at the Tour of Yorkshire and Tour of Britain and things like that, and then nobody cared. I was desperate to get to the World Tour. But yeah, no, I made it eventually. It was sort of my absolute last chance. I was 25, 26. And then, yeah, I managed to persuade someone to have me.
Was that always your aim all along, to try and land that big contract?
Yeah, obviously. Everyone has the same aim, I think. So, yeah, just trying for years. I think I did 8 years in the UK. Yeah.
And those results you got in Yorkshire, I think it was 5th and 6th overall?
Yeah, 5th and 6th on GC, which looking back wasn't amazing, but, at the time, it was. I was head and shoulders above the other British guys in those races. And, I thought, why don't the teams want me? Like, it's because I was beating these guys on World Tour teams. But looking back again, I realised that for them, the Tour of Yorkshire was such a small race. Not half the World Tour guys, they were just there because they had to be. They were doing a job. So yeah.
Well, you're still in good company though, getting results like that, top 10 in a big pro race. You're in good company, and that must have given you a lot of confidence.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I think that's what kept me going. Like, I was certain I was good enough, and whether I was or I wasn't, I believed it. So yeah, I just kept going and going and going.
And when you did get that pro contract, how did that feel?
Like winning the lottery, really, yeah. I can remember the phone call. It was a long, drawn-out process of back and forth, trying to persuade people, trying to get people to answer the phone. And it actually happened because the World Championships were in Yorkshire. And I said, right, well, I'm coming to see you. And I think that tipped it in my favour. But yeah, I can remember the phone call from my agent at the time, and I was in TK Maxx, actually, I don't know why, just wandering around, passing some time. And I went, yeah, great,
Probably
bought some socks or something.
Okay then, so you've landed your pro contract, it's kind of like big celebratory moments, but how did it actually kind of pan out in the beginning? What was the expectations versus the reality of it?
I don't know what the team expected of me. I think I was signed as a climber because I did climb well in the UK, and I was one of the stronger climbers at the time on the team. So yeah, they expected me to be competitive. I know that I wasn't just there to ride on the front. And then yeah, I went to my first race and actually won a stage of the Tour Down Under. So from then on, that set the precedent, which was really good and really bad, because they thought, wow, he can win World Tour races, and then actually I didn't win anymore, and they were quite disappointed.
Well, I was going to say, because it's such a big start, you made an impact straight away, winning a stage on Wollonga Hill, which is pretty much like Richie Port's climb, and you upset the odds.
Yeah.
So that must have been quite a big splash to begin with.
Yeah, definitely. And again, looking back on it, I'm surprised I didn't have contract offers there and then, because people would have gone, who the hell's this? Why, I should have had people knocking on the door, but I didn't for some reason. But yeah, it couldn't have been a better start. Like it was really a fairy tale story. Like it was all the way over in Australia, and my parents were there on the finish line. I told them not to even bother. I remember on the start line, they were there, and I said, "Well, it's a long way out in the countryside. What you're going to see? Don't bother coming." And they ignored me. So yeah, there's quite a lot of stories from that race actually. I made an impression, that's for sure. I remember at one point, because like I was out of my depth really. I felt like I was out of my depth, and it was probably obviously a world tour race, so the standard's high and the speed is high, and just the skill and the ability of everyone was so much higher than the Tour of Britain and things. And I was like, I can't do this. And I remember I was climbing really badly at the back of the bunch, what I'd done because I'd joined the European team was I'd swapped my brakes the other way around, like a couple of months before. So yeah, I was all right until it's an emergency like situation. And I overshot one corner one time, and two people went over the guardrail. Don't know who. They never found me to say anything after it. So that was one sort of mess up I did. And then another time, I had to get a bottle for Caleb, with caffeine in it for the final lap. I got that. I took the bottle. No, that was it. I took a bottle and went, oh, what's that? Threw it away, and it was Caleb's special bottle, with caffeine in it. So then he went, right, you need to get that bottle next lap. So that was a big old stress. And then, and again, I think this must have been our second day in the World Tour. We were leading out Caleb, and he was winning every day, so it was great. And I had a bottle to throw away on this drag up to the finish, and I just went, oh, some kids, threw it straight at Mads Pedersen while he was world champion, straight in his ribs. And then to make it even worse, we were riding along, leading out, and he went, oh, don't worry, no stress. And I didn't see him. I just left him hanging. So yeah, it was really good and really bad in many ways. My first World Tour experience.
A baptism of fire in a way, but I mean, still, despite the slight mishaps, you won the stage.
Yeah.
You made a good impression. You got a start in the Grand Tour. Yeah. You also wore the KOM jersey, the Paris-Nice. Yeah. I think you were lying on the start line with, was it Wout van Aert and Laporte? Laporte and...
who was it? I don't know. Yeah, but I had some mega experiences. You must
have thought that I've made it here.
Yeah, exactly. There were some times, at one point, I found myself in the front echelon on the crosswind days of Paris-Nice in the polka dot jersey with Wout van Aert in the green jersey or something, Roglic in the yellow jersey. It was ridiculous. Yeah.
Okay, so first year then things have gone relatively well. But when did you first kind of notice the hardship of pro cycling? When did it really get tough?
Well, I'd say the first 2 years were great. The second year, again, there wasn't as much racing because it was still affected by COVID. And it was good. I was still getting decent results. I got more polka dot jerseys because why not? And then, yeah, it was just the third year. It started to go a bit downhill for me because it was the whole relegation battle for UCI points. So I actually got raced for the first half of 2022. I raced more than anyone else on the planet. I did 64 race days by the end of the Tour de Suisse, which is mental. It was just silly. So yeah, it was. I mean, I'm not blaming the team or anything, but it was because we were fighting for UCI points, and if you don't start with a full team, you lose you get a big fine, and you lose quite a chunk of points. So I was really just being used at that point to go from race to race to race to just start, and they were saying, just start, do a few days, and then you can go home, and then you can go to another race and do the same thing. So yeah, it was frustrating because you can't train and you don't get better from just racing and travelling, unfortunately. But yeah, I did actually go really well in the Tour de Suisse at the end of this 64-day block of racing. I was going well. I was, when there was probably 30 guys left on the climbs, I was one of them. So yeah, I wasn't too concerned at that point. I just thought, well, I'm doing my job. Everyone knows that these DNFs are not my fault. I'm just going from race to race, trying to save the team points, basically.
Did you have a choice at that point? Did you try and push back about the fact you were being sent to races? And
not really, no. I did say, look, no, I've got a cold, and they go, right, okay, well, your flight's booked. See you there. So, but fair enough that I just literally had to have someone on the start line, and that person was me. So yeah, I didn't complain. It's my job. It's a professional cyclist, so you got to take the rough with the smooth. So,
but were you worrying, because obviously in your head you're thinking this is a big difference the last few years, and this is my career on the line. Were you worrying that it was you weren't being kind of given priority to go to races you wanted to go to?
No, I wasn't worrying. Like I say, I was just doing my job. Maybe that's just me as a character. I only look at the positives, and I was like, well, I'm doing some good for the team in my own little way. So, yeah, so I wasn't concerned. And to be honest, I don't know why they didn't offer me a contract, because I was still a good rider. But I think the reality was probably with change of sponsors and things like that. Soudal wanted British riders. There's 1,000 Belgians as good as me that are racing these Comesses that could take my place, and so they sort of should on a Belgian team. So yeah, there's no hard feelings towards the team for not re-signing me, but I probably should have seen it coming, because looking back, it was obvious, really.
How did that come about then, the fact you didn't get your contract renewed?
I can't really remember. It really did fall apart for me in that last year, because I did that whole block of racing, and then I was just broken, and then it was like, right, well, second half of the year we'll try and hit the ground running, and I got COVID around Nationals time, I think, and then they had an altitude camp that the team were paying for, which the team didn't do at the time. It was the first chance I'd ever had to go to altitude. So I thought, well, it might be revolutionary. Altitude will save me from COVID. So yeah, that was the end for me, really. I couldn't pedal. I went there, and I remember the DSs there at the time. They must have been stood on the side of the road for 45 minutes just waiting for me, because it was roasting hot in Livigno. I don't know where we rode, so I was just holding on to the group until I knew the way home, and then I'd go, right, see ya. And I was just going one foot, another foot, and just literally couldn't do 200 watts anymore. So yeah, that was really the end for me, for at Lotto at least.
How did you feel about that? Were you looking for other teams, or were you kind of just feeling so broken at that point that it was I've had enough?
I'd had enough, so I'm quite proud of myself, really, because it's what everyone says is, when you don't enjoy it, that's the time to stop. And I really was not enjoying it. They were towards the end of the year, I was being asked to ride races I would have killed to start when I was at Madison. And I was like, absolutely not. That's the worst thing I could possibly think of doing right now. So, yeah, that's the time that you call it a day, or at least rethink things. So it did come to the point where Lotto didn't want me, and I didn't really want to be World Tour rider anymore. So yeah, I took that leap. I didn't have a plan in place at all. But yeah, no, I'm quite proud for actually doing that.
Did you still ride your bike after that?
Yeah, I rode quite a lot. I just kept riding for fun, and just to keep my sanity. So yeah, it was. I wouldn't recommend it. It wasn't great, not having any plan at all. But yeah, no, it's been since then. It's really been a year, almost 2 years now, of just trying to work out one problem after the next and work out what I want to do.
And still, like looking back, do you still have good memories of your time as a professional cyclist, or did that last period kind of sour it a little bit?
Yeah, no, I definitely have good memories because, like I say, I quit when it got unenjoyable. So I enjoyed it all right up until the very end. When I remember one day I just was out training, and I just sort of stopped at the side of the road and thought, I'm not doing this. I'm just going to go home, and I'm going to phone the team and tell them I'm not doing those races. So yeah, I was pretty quick to react to sort of not enjoying it anymore.
And did you kind of feel a little bit bitter that you didn't get contract offers from other teams at that stage? Because you'd had big results and you'd made a good showing for yourself as a pro. Yeah,
I don't really know why. I don't know. Maybe it's my face. I don't have a clue. If you just compare yourself to other people, I've won a World Tour race. That's like 1% of the 1%. Not many people win any bike races, and then to win a World Tour bike race is sort of next level. I mean, I don't think it was a fluke. I think I could do it again given the opportunity. So, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe you'll have to ask the other teams when they what do you think of this guy? Why didn't you want him?
It's funny because any time I speak to someone about pro cycling, especially people who've kind of finished their careers or retired, you just get reminded about how brutal it actually is.
Yeah.
You forget so easily, especially when you're watching the races, and you always just see the front of the race because that's what you're watching.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to forget how hard it is. Overall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you kept on riding, you carried on going, and you're winning races still. So, tell us what you're up to now.
Like I say, it's been just. I just had to start again from zero, so I'm just racing what I can and trying to enjoy it. So that means gravel racing, some racing in the UK, at the track. I did. In fact, no, that's the reason I really seriously started training again, because a year out from the Olympics, me and my friend Johnny went, actually, you could do this. You've got the power. Johnny is a track rider himself, and he was pretty amazing in sort of picking me up and turning things around. So we had a big long mission to try and get to the Olympics in the team pursuit. But yeah, that sort of ended in I raced the World Cup in Hong Kong, and that was no chance. It's not happening. I was not good enough at all at that race. So. I couldn't put a foot wrong, and even then the odds were almost impossible. Like they did not need me in that squad, so I would have had to be the best rider they've ever seen to break into it. But yeah, that was the reason for me to get fit again. And then after Hong Kong, I went, right, what do I do now? And went and won Lincoln and the Gralloch World Series gravel race.
The biggest gravel race in the UK, pretty comprehensively.
Yeah.
So how did that feel to kind of be back to winning ways?
It was good. So I say I've never really won a huge amount of races. I won like the National Series, and I won a National Series race, a couple of stages and stuff. So it's quite a new experience, to be honest, actually winning races. Because I just didn't do it all that often. But I have a different mindset now, because I've sort of come down a level. I'm like, well, I should be winning this race. So it's funny. I did a race in Lancaster, and I was absolutely gutted that I didn't win it, which is a totally new feeling for me. But it's been great, and it's good fun.
And how have things changed? Because obviously pro cycling always had the model of like a team. You rode for a team. You rode for an amateur team, then you went to a professional team, and you looked for a bigger professional team if you did well enough.
Yeah.
You're now a privateer, which is kind of a relatively new concept in cycling. Like how's that working? How does it work for you?
Again, I'm finding out as I go along. It's obviously stressful in different ways. For a long time, I had no income and a mortgage to pay. So yeah, it's just been a case of trying to pick up the phone and speak to anyone and everyone, which is basically the approach I've taken. And I found I've had an unbelievable amount of support. Like there's some really good people in the world. Like I always think it's been like a game of snakes and ladders. Like I went right back to square one, but then lots of people have come along with ladders and gone, no, actually, you should be back there. You know, off you go. You know, I'll help you. And it's been really good. And that itself has given me so much confidence. People saying, you can do this, you know. And I've gone, oh, really? Can I? So, yeah, no, it's been overall, I mean, I wouldn't repeat it, but where I am now is a much better place than I was, you know, slogging away in the gutter.
Like, as you said, you've got a mortgage to pay, you're a full-time athlete, full-time cyclist. So financially, like, how does it compare now as a privateer to riding for a World Tour team?
Not bad. Yeah, doing well. I think the whole gravel scene, I think people think it's a real gold rush, you know. You can make a load of money racing gravel, which I think some people are doing, but very few. And those people, rather than having one contract to stress over, they've got 10, you know, because they've got helmet sponsor, sunglasses, kit, bike, saddle, handlebar tape. You know, you've got to spin so many plates yourself, but at the same time, you've got no one else in charge of your life, no one that can completely derail your plans for you. So I quite like that. I quite like not having, you know, I've learned you can't really trust many people, like, so it's quite nice you're not having to trust people. You know, you're your own boss, and I think that's for me that's a happier place to be.
And has that kind of impacted your enjoyment of cycling, the fact that you're now in charge of yourself compared to a team dictating what you have to do?
I don't know. I think I only do it because I enjoy it. So I've always enjoyed it, and I enjoy training, and I enjoy stopping at the cafe and just having a coffee and dossing about as well. So yeah, it's not a changed it. I also really enjoyed doing the big races. So that's the one thing it's a shame, you know, I can't go to the Tour de France. It's just not happening unless. Never say never, unless I go back to the World Tour. But yeah, no, I've always liked it since being a child, so I just keep doing it, and it seems to be working.
Would you have changed anything about that time when you were a fully fledged pro cyclist in the World Tour ranks? Would you have done anything differently?
No, I don't think I could. I've learned so much. I'm better now than I ever was. I learned so much through doing the track and learning all about getting aerodynamic and training better and knowing my own limits and riding to them. And so there's nothing I could have done differently. It was what it was. Like, I didn't have the knowledge that I have now, and I don't, like I say, I wouldn't repeat it, but I'm better now because of it. Definitely. Was
it what you'd expected it would be?
What, the World Tour? No. I think that's what I'd say to people. The dream was a dream. You know, you picture this life, and the reality is 90% of the time you're in a hotel, you know, trying to put your feet up.
It's funny you say that, because that is what I found the hardest. Yeah. Just sitting in just really poor hotels for lots of time.
In Grobendonk in Belgium. Yeah. You know what that is? That's where Lotto was based. I remember sitting in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. What advice would you have for aspiring cyclists then, who are kind of trying to go pro? They're on the verge. What would you say to them, or the past version of yourself even?
Enjoy it. Like, try to, if you don't enjoy it, don't do it. But what I will say to everyone is that the time at Madison, that was the dream. Like, racing the UK continental or Europe continental scene was such low pressure, but really good bike racing. And that's something Roger Hammond used to say to us at the time, like, this, you know, this is as good as it gets. I'm sure, I can't remember exactly his words, but he was right, you know. And you went to Belgium, so you sort of had a different world. But Hank and NFTO, like that, those were the days. Like, it was so funny. So yeah, you can enjoy it even if you don't make it. Like, there's a whole range of cycling experiences you can have outside of the World Tour.
Yeah, I think that's similar advice I'd give as well, is to try and remember to enjoy it, and to enjoy those moments, and when the pressure does build, just to kind of try and remember like what you're doing it all for in the first place. But it's been really interesting to talk to you, Matt, actually, and to get your insight into it all, because it's reminded me actually of how hard it can be. And best of luck in the future. I hope to see you kind of winning some more bike races.
Thank you.
It's been really interesting to chat with Matt and catch up on all his racing, and it's kind of been quite a big reminder to me about just how tough pro cycling actually is. It's so easy to forget, and even for me, I've been through it myself, and a few years on, your memory kind of almost fogs over the tougher moments. Professional sport is just brutal, and I've got a huge amount of respect for anyone that takes it on. But let's be honest, there's much harder jobs out there with much more serious consequences if you don't do your job right. But still, when you're chasing your dreams and you're putting everything on the line to try and get somewhere, it's just tough, whether it works out or whether it doesn't. And the fact that a career in pro cycling can be so short-lived. Would I recommend it to anyone else? I still say yes. It's been the best adventure that I was ever lucky enough to experience. There were some wild moments, some really tough times, but also you achieve these incredible highs too, which I feel absolutely incredibly lucky to have experienced. But for anyone who is looking to chase a pro contract and go after it, just be under no illusions about how tough it might be. Everyone makes their own journey though. Let me know in the comments what you think. Would you like to be a professional cyclist after hearing some of Matt's stories? Or is it best to watch it from the TV screens like I enjoy doing now? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Good luck to Matt and all his endeavours. See you on the next video.